Jon Roland at the Austin Constitution Meetup, June 18th, 2013. We're resuming the discussion with a discussion on NSA surveillance and the issues that it raises. First of all, on the question of the leaking of information about it, it is not clear to me at this time whether the information that has been leaked is really new information, whether it's really a secret. It has not been a secret for me. Now, I have to admit I haven't heard the name PRISM as a project name before, but other than that, everything the NSA has been doing has been well known, well documented, much discussed. It's been going, or its predecessor's work has been going on since World War II without interruption. Essentially, they've been scarfing up all the communications of every kind whatsoever, everywhere on Earth that they can. If they can do it, they record it. And that's the fact that technology now makes it possible to literally record every telephone conversation, every email, every browser, web browser visit, everything at all that happens electronically. For all we know, they're even tapping into conversations between children talking over between cans connected by strings. The question is NSA surveillance unconstitutional? Now, a lot of people are upset about it. In fact, I'm one of them. But it's not because it's something new to me. It's been an open secret. Their earlier names for the activities include Echelon, Project Echelon, that is. It's been well known that where the government has a rule that they're not supposed to surveil U.S. citizens, they've been having our allies do it, and we get their information from them, and we do the same thing for them and give them the information. So in a world of multiple nations, many of whom are allied to us, we can always find a way to surveil anyone, anywhere, by some combination of national efforts, or even private efforts. After all, you can have the credit reporting agencies doing the same kind of work and reporting their findings to the government. And, well, the government can always say, well, we're not doing that. Even if the law says they can't do that, it doesn't prevent a private organization from doing it, or from the government from getting the results. So they can contract all this stuff out, or even just have it given to them if they don't want to pay for it. So the question is, what are the constitutional issues involved in this? And from the discussions that we hear, it doesn't seem that people are clear on some of these concepts. What it comes down to is there an expectation of privacy for phone calls, emails, etc.? Maybe not. It depends on the technology of how they're conducted. There is a privacy in sealed mail, but not in postcards. If you mail a postcard, anybody can read it that handles it. Now you could say, well, only postmen are supposed to handle it, and you're not supposed to let anybody else handle it, but the fact is that mail is left lying around all the time in post boxes on the street and so forth. So realistically, You could say there's privacy in not opening people's mail, but not in if it's already open. Wiretapping needed warrants when connections were two-way and expected to be private. It used to be that you conducted a phone call and you did have an expectation of privacy, just because of the nature of the technology. Maybe the telephone operator could listen in, but chances are it wasn't practical for anyone else to do so without being intrusive in a clear-cut way. But when packets are broadcast and reassembled, who's the owner? When it goes out over the airways or over the internet trunk lines, who is actually the owner once it's released into the wild, as it were? And I would say that if we expect any kind of privacy for our electronic communications, we're going to have to encrypt them. And only if we encrypt them can we really expect Fourth Amendment protections. We need a new standard. It's not enough to protect against intrusion into privacy zones. To prevent excessive surveillance, we need a new principle of restraint, an expectation of non-surveillance, which would extend into public spaces and covers things like facial recognition. It is not clear that this standard could be made judicial. It may be amenable only to legislation, and lots of luck with Congress trying to keep up with technological developments in the field. If not enacted, public surveillance may overwhelm protection in private zones. The problem basically comes down to this. We have to go out sometime. If everything we do in the open is scrutinized, we may never be able to make it to a private space. There may be nowhere to go or that we can get to before they interfere with our personal activities. Or if there are any more zones of privacy, to be able to take any refuge there. If you're only private in a place where you can't make a living, then sooner or later you have to go out and they can get you. So your home, your person, your effects, your premises are a wonderful concept, but the home is not the castle it once was due to technological developments. Now, if you type on the wrong kind of keyboard, the emissions from RF emissions from your keyboard may be readable by someone next door. Now, if you engage in a conversation, an infrared beam can read the vibration of your windows in order to determine what you're saying. If you have smells coming out of your house that can be detectable by a machine or even by a dog, it may be allowed to be the basis for a probable cause affidavit. So, or even just excessive use of electricity, which might be suspected as being used to grow the wrong kind of plants. So there's all sorts of activities that extend beyond the zone of privacy that you think you may have, and that are going to need to be addressed if we are to achieve a measure of privacy that most of us would be comfortable with.